On October 15, 2025, after spending more than 31 years on death row, justice was finally delivered. Charles Ray Crawford was executed by lethal injection at the Mississippi State Penitentiary in Parchman for a crime so horrific it haunted an entire community for decades, the rape and murder of 20-year-old college student Christy Denise Ray. This account uncovers the story behind that day, his final meal, his last words, and the dark trail of violence that led him to the execution chamber. In 1991, at just 25 years old, Charles Ray Crawford's life was already a portrait of instability, addiction, and poor choices. A drifter on the streets of Mississippi, he lived on petty thefts and drugs, moving aimlessly without a job or purpose. His personal life mirrored that turmoil: a failed young marriage, a separation, and growing resentment toward the world around him. It was within this atmosphere of chaos that Crawford's violent tendencies escalated. One afternoon in April 1991, Crawford encountered his ex-wife's 17-year-old sister and her friend. Pretending to offer them a ride home, he instead drove them to an abandoned house near Walnut, Mississippi. There, his mask dropped. He pulled out a weapon, forced his ex-sister-in-law inside, taped her hands, gagged her, and raped her mercilessly. When he turned his attention toward her friend and she resisted, Crawford grabbed a hammer and beat her savagely before fleeing the scene. Miraculously, both girls survived and immediately went to the police. Their testimonies and forensic evidence quickly led to Crawford's arrest. He was charged with rape, assault, and kidnapping, yet despite the brutal nature of his crimes, the court allowed him to remain free on bail, a decision that would soon have devastating consequences. Crawford's trial for these crimes was scheduled for February 1993, but he would never make it there as a free man. Before facing justice for his previous offenses, he committed an act so monstrous that it sealed his fate forever. On January 29, 1993, just 4 days before his scheduled trial, 26-year-old Crawford crossed a line from which there would be no return. His victim was Christy Denise Ray, a 20-year-old college student known for her warmth, intelligence, and unwavering optimism. Christy had been born in Germany and lived in Mississippi, where she attended Northeast Mississippi Community College. She was passionate about computers and dreamed of transferring to Mississippi State University. Alongside her studies, she worked part-time at Sunburst Bank, where she often helped her mother, Mary Ray. That evening, when Mary Ray couldn't reach her daughter around 6:45 p.m., she assumed Christy was with her boyfriend, Brian Mathesy. But when Mary arrived home around 7 p.m., her heart sank. Christy's car was missing, and on the kitchen table lay a ransom note. It read, "There will be a red flag somewhere on this block on Tuesday at midnight. $15,000 in a gym bag or she dies." No police attached to it was a crudely drawn map. Authorities later learned that Crawford had broken into the Ray home, intending to steal, assuming no one was there. But when he unexpectedly found Christy, his plan changed. He kidnapped her, took her to an abandoned barn, and there, instead of executing a ransom scheme, he raped and murdered her. Christy's body was later found tied to a cedar tree, her hands cuffed behind her back, a sock stuffed in her mouth, and her jeans pulled below her hips. The autopsy revealed a deep stab wound that pierced her heart and left lung, causing fatal bleeding. DNA evidence conclusively linked Crawford to the assault. Ironically, it was Crawford's own family who helped unravel the case. That same night, they found another ransom note hidden in their attic, almost identical to the one left at the Ray residence. Fearing that he might be planning a kidnapping, Crawford's mother, wife, and grandfather immediately contacted his attorney, William Fourier, and notified the police. By the next day, investigators had connected Crawford to Christy's disappearance. He was found and arrested near his former father-in-law's home, carrying a double-barreled shotgun and an automatic knife. At first, Crawford denied any involvement, claiming he had blacked out and remembered only fragments of the night. But when confronted with evidence, he confessed and led officers to Christie's body, hidden under a pile of leaves in a wooded area behind the abandoned barn. Crawford's 1994 trial became one of Mississippi's most disturbing criminal proceedings. His defense claimed insanity, supported by a psychiatrist who testified that Crawford suffered from depression, memory loss, and bipolar disorder. However, the prosecution's experts dismantled that argument, presenting testimony from a clinical psychologist who confirmed that Crawford's actions were premeditated and that he fully understood right from wrong. A forensic psychiatrist added that he had been misdiagnosed with psychogenic amnesia. On April 22, 1994, a Lafayette County jury found Charles Ray Crawford guilty on all counts: capital murder, rape, sexual assault, and burglary. The next day, April 23rd, the jury unanimously recommended the death penalty. He also received life imprisonment without parole for rape, and additional 15 and 30-year sentences for burglary and sexual assault. For his earlier crimes, he was sentenced to 46 years in prison. Over the next 3 decades, Crawford filed numerous appeals, seeking to overturn his death sentence. In 2014, the Mississippi Attorney General petitioned for his execution, but the state Supreme Court denied the request, ruling that appeals concerning his previous rape conviction were still ongoing. By November 2024, those legal avenues had finally been exhausted. Attorney General Lynn Fitch once again requested an execution date. Despite his lawyer's objections, the U.S. Supreme Court denied his final appeal in June 2025, clearing the path for his execution. On the morning of October 15, 2025, Charles Ray Crawford awoke at 7 a.m., calm and resigned. He spent his final hours with his family and a chosen pastor, expressing that he was ready to face his fate. At noon, he was served his last meal, a double cheeseburger, French fries, peach pie, and chocolate ice cream, a quiet indulgence before death. By 6 p.m., Crawford lay strapped to the gurney, covered with a white sheet, only a small portion of his red shirt visible. To his right stood Burl Cain, the commissioner of the Mississippi Department of Corrections, and to his left, Mark McClure, regional superintendent. 3 other officials stood at his feet. When asked for his final words, Crawford said, "To my family, I love you. I am at peace. I have the peace of God. To the victim's family, true peace and closure cannot be found without God. Thank you, God, for giving me the peace I have." At 6:02 p.m., the first drug of the 3-drug lethal injection protocol entered his veins. Within minutes, his breathing slowed. A medic checked his consciousness, confirming, "In my professional opinion, this man is unconscious." By 6:11 p.m., all movement stopped. The room fell silent. At 6:15 p.m., Charles Ray Crawford was pronounced dead. As the curtain of Unit 17 slowly closed, it marked the end of a man who had spent 3 decades under the shadow of death row, and the long-awaited closure for a family whose world was shattered by senseless violence. What do you think about the execution that just took place? Do you believe it was just or not? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to keep up with the next executions.